So my son, who is a baby, to be fair, has decided to stop sleeping. So we're all kind of dead. But I did spend an hour or so a couple of days ago filming a painting and talking to myself. I can't remember what I spoke about, but it's all good. It's all good. Great, great stuff. It's worth watching the whole thing from the beginning to the end, no skips. Okay, so gonna do a painting. It's not really a live stream because it's not live, but I'm gonna sort of do it as if it was live. Admittedly, I haven't even really decided what I'm going to paint yet, so we might sort of skip this bit or just go for it. I might just pick a sort of random thing, because really this is just a little sort of study to start the day, right? That's it. This is just a kind of warm up on a piece of paper. And that's it. That's it. So I'm just going to talk about what I'm doing. It's not really a tutorial. So this is transparent oxide red, and I'm just initially doing a kind of basic little drawing. I'm not worried too much about getting it exactly right. I'm just trying to enjoy the paint for a bit. I see a lot of people spend a lot of time measuring, and you can see why, because it does make it accurate. But I just do a little bit of measuring because I quite like a bit of inaccuracy, you know? It's not that big a deal if things are a bit off. You know, a bit of wonk, I think, is valuable. It's exciting. You know, I think that this idea of extreme measurement in painting, in figurative art, is a kind of result of, you know, academic style painting, academic style art, where the goal is not to find your own way, but actually work within a set of conventions. Work within a set of conventions to be consistent within those conventions. But in a post-photography, especially photography superabundance world, then I just don't think we need to worry about that. I can see value in it, obviously. I'm not daft. Like, being able to do the same thing consistently is a good thing. But it takes a lot of fun out of it for me. And, you know, this is not a commission. This is not even anything of any significance. This is just something I'm doing to start off my day. Loosen up a bit before I work on some more serious. Not that this isn't serious, but working some stuff that's a little bit more high jeopardy, some commission stuff. So all I'm trying to do now is find some basic values, some key anchors, and some shapes. I don't care if it doesn't look good. Sometimes it looks unbelievably ugly around out here. Sometimes it looks great, and I'm reluctant to do any more. I think this might be a slightly ugly one. I think that might be the case here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try find this colour, which is kind of a dusty pink. So I'm mixing this up. Can you see that? I suppose you can. I think that's, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly accurate. Not yet. I'll make it a little bit more pink, I think. Yes, like I say, it doesn't have to be bang on. I just want to start to hit some colours that feel kind of right. But maybe as I'm saying this, I'm looking at this and thinking, actually no, I need to darken up all this before I can do that. But I don't want to overcommit. So it might have much more red in it. It's quite a red piece. Has anyone ever done the Milo horse? So I imagine most people don't know what that is. But fair enough. Why would you? But Milo's a great painter, and he has this paint along thing that he's got on YouTube. Painting this horse. It's a digital thing, which is kind of surprising, but that's what it is, and it's really kind of amazing. It taught me a lot about this idea of blobs, right? You know, like it when we can reduce things down to these dead simple naming ideas. The blob. Do you think a blob is not intimidating? It's not intimidating to make a blob, is it? So the idea is that we just need to blob our paintings out. That's it. Just blob them out. I think that's a good way of describing that idea of, you know, when we squint, when we try and reduce the information down, why are we trying to get to the fundamentals? It is a kind of blobification. We blob up. Blob it up. These are nice brushes. This is a nice brush, I have to say. I'm not always using such a nice brush, but it feels good to use one. I'm not using it for any special reason, it was just sort of there. Okay, so now I want this to be just a quick painting, so I'm just wanting to start to get to some of the lower value zones, and that's going to help me see this higher value and work out what to do with it. So one thing I think that people forget, that it's nice to be reminded when we're working like this, i.e. with no underdrawing, is that this is drawing too. How is this not drawing? Just because I'm using a pencil, which is, you know, a piece of lead on the end of a stick, or a brush, so a piece of hairs on the end of a stick with some paint on it, or some, you know, a felt, you know, a fine liner, right? Or this Sharpie. What is the difference between these two, really? Like, this is a stick, this is a stick. This has fibres on the end in a brush-like way. This has fibres on the end in a sort of more sponge-like way. But really, what's the difference? There's no difference. There's no difference. Any difference there is just an illusion. It's just something people have made up to create a distinction. I understand why. I'm not going to rubbish people that do that. But I do think it can be kind of unhelpful sometimes. I think it's more helpful to be able to think of, hey, well, why aren't we always drawing? I don't like the idea that I would do a drawing, stop, and then kind of colour in. I like that I'm always drawing. It means it's kind of constant jeopardy. At any stage in the painting, you can kind of lose it or get it back. So I say this is all drawing. Even erasing is drawing. So I use cotton tips a lot. A lot. They're really, really useful. But sometimes I do worry I'm going to pay for it. For the environmental impact. I feel like I go through quite a lot of these earbud things. I can call them Q-tips in America. Alright, so I've done a wee bit more work now to some of those shadow areas, which means I'm just going to start doing a little bit more to the face. I need to get rid of the white of the paper. And so for doing that, I'm going to just try and find this dusty pink. It's a dusty pink, but it's got plenty of yellow in it. That still feels quite light. I meant dark. That still feels quite dark. And that feels quite green. I'm quite jealous of people who have the patience to pre-mix. I get it, you know, it keeps you organised. You don't lose your way so easily. I lose my way all the time. Maybe I'm permanently lost. But you know, I think we all kind of deep down know that it's quite a nice way to travel. Just get lost. So I'm not going to totally rubbish the idea. But I think also, I like trying to working on, you know, relativity. So rather than just thinking that, oh, well, that it needs to be this exact yellow, it's just that it's yellower. You know, like this cheek. I'm not getting the exact right colour here, but I know it's pinker than the forehead area. I know that it's pinker than the chin area. There's lots of yellows and whatnot in it, but hopefully you can see what I'm kind of getting at. It's all relative. Colour relativity is much more important than, I think, nailing the exact colour. So like up here, that against my reference is too yellow. But in the painting, doesn't it feel so ridiculous? I think that I've lost something of the shape in here though. That's a bigger problem. But we can still resolve it. Like I say, always drawing. Always drawing. So I'm going to just come in and start to redefine that hairline. Normally I've got a transparent yellow on my palette, but I don't today. And you know what, I kind of miss it. I kind of miss it. Because it does help just bring a bit of vibrancy into some of these areas, so I could use it in here. But I think it's really good to switch up the palette. It's not good to get stuck. It's not good to get stuck. So I can already see some big problems here. It's a study, so I'm not gonna like go crazy fixing them. Part of the reason why we do these is to find the problems. But it's definitely a drawing problem in some of the shapes. The chin just isn't quite right. The hairline isn't quite right. Something not quite right here in this forehead shape. In reality, this sort of comes out a wee bit more. But I think I can kind of maybe cheat my way to fixing some of these. Again, I'm going to try and resist the urge to render out some of these shapes and stick to the commit to the blob. Oh, it's pretty high chroma in there, but that's fine. That's fine. There do come moments though when you have to take a shift and say, okay, I need to be more precise here. I watched this video essay that somebody had made about Sargent. I didn't agree with everything they said, but I liked their kind of attempt to find a scientific way of reading Sargent. And so they landed on this idea of the edges, about just getting the right balance between specificity of edge and generalization, about the kind of sense of blurriness or something. I don't know if they totally nailed it, but I like that attempt to say, actually, yeah, this is understandable as a kind of something scientific. Oh, look at that. I mean, that's the wrong colour, isn't it? Miles off the value. That's more like a value down here. But you know, I can just kind of rub it in. Don't use your fingers, guys. Don't do that. It's really stupid. Don't do that. Wear gloves if you want to do that. Don't be like me. There's no advice here. Don't do anything I do ever. And you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. As long as you don't do any of this. Don't do it. So I've still got some of this pink, you know, the Quinacridone is so powerful. And I need it because I always have this tendency, and I think it is an unconscious stylistic thing, to make noses red. I've always kind of done it in some way. So I recently got rid of cadmium red from my palette entirely. This is not really for like personal health reasons, but I've got young kids and like I've got my studio is not in the house, like it's in the garden. I've got a kind of separate space. But nevertheless, I do kind of worry about it. You know, sometimes I have to run in and help them out and I've got kind of painty hands. But I also, you know, I worry about my own health more than ever before. I never really used to be like a health anxiety person. But since having kids, I really am. It's kind of embarrassing a wee bit. But it's true, I really do worry about health. So I want to be around quite a bit longer. Now, don't think that I'm saying that
cadmium red is that dangerous. I think as long as you're careful, you don't sand it down, don't eat when you're painting, you know, wear gloves. If you do all that, I think you will be fine. But I just have to be honest with myself and say that I'm not going to do that. I'm quite bad sometimes at being not lazy. So this jawline, there's something off here, which is giving it a real bad vibe. Not in like a cool Bjorkland way, in an accidental, I don't know what the hell I'm doing way. And I think it's just something simple. But we're not going to attack that problem straight on. I'm just going to be aware of it. I'm going to circle back to it in a little bit. Just think a little bit about the shirt here. Drawing out some of the other shapes. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've done a study and it's just turned into like a whole day of painting. I'm going to not let that happen here because I really have a lot of other stuff to do. I really do. So I want to keep softness. I don't want to go too deep into rendering. But I also don't want it to be a big blurry mess. So getting that balance is just right. And I do think it's kind of maybe born at these stages. We look at a lot of painters who paint in this kind of fluffy way. And I sort of don't know how to do it. I'm immensely impressed by it. I don't know how it's done. I'm thinking about, what's her name, Ruth Fitton. I mean, pretty traditional stuff. But I kind of love it. I kind of love looking at it. I could come up with arguments why I think it's, you know, not a good way to paint or whatever, but if I'm being completely honest with myself, I absolutely love it. And if I were to come up with some argument, it would just be because I don't know how to do it. I'm trying to cope with that fact. I think that's something that's quite common. People lie to themselves a lot. So what I'm going to do here is just start to... I was going to do this shirt, but I might not actually. I might not. I'm going to put in some of the some of the sort of higher key pieces. So I've got a kind of light yellow that I'm using here. And again, I'm still drawing. Don't think that I'm not drawing. I didn't stop drawing. Is it kind of weird that I think I'm starting to notice a weird tick that I have in my painting? And I keep mucking up the position of the mouth in a way that I never used to do. So you guys have stuff like that. A bit like a kind of golfer's slice. These recurrent problems. It's just a kind of inclination. So you see, I think there's a big shift to green as we move into the chin and the neck area. But I don't want to overdo it. But it's definitely there. I think as soon as I put in some of these green passages, that's going to start to feel a little bit more right. Especially down here. Man, these values are way off. That still feels wrong, but I'm going to just run with it for a second. So I think this is a little bit darker than I've made it. Oh no. Oh no. I can see this really becoming an all-day thing. I can feel it. It's drawing me in, this painting. But I need to stop. I need to stop. I'm going to do some background stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the shirt. I'm going to do everything else. I'm going to do a complete painting. That's the idea. Right. So how do we get to that? I'm going to do this blue, this green, this yellow, dusty green, and then grey up. Yeah. I think it is slightly more into the blue than that. Okay, there we go. Still pretty green rather than to the blue, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much. Now I'm going to get something really pretty dark for over here. And while I'm doing this, I quite like to use it as an opportunity to loosen up a lot of the other bits of the painting. You know, you're drawing, you're not just filling in the background, you're actually drawing the silhouette a little bit more. And some of this tone and light of the background does make its way into the painting itself. I'm going to have to get more paint out. I've been using this warm white, which I think is lovely for portraits. But it seems to be, there's something about it. I haven't really looked at the makeup. There's something about it which is quite weak. Which is what's good. That's good. I hear you say, aye, but not when I'm wanting it to be strong. So titanium, brought the titanium back here. I used to tone all my canvases. I don't know why I stopped doing that, because it does make it easier in this part. You know, I like some of these textures and little gestures that you can get from the paint in this bit, this stage of the process. The problem is if you really want to get rid of your white, you can end up with an awful lot of ruining some of the nice, like, fresh quality of some of this stuff. Okay, so now to hit this, I'm going to give it more of a blue vibe, which I use this turquoise for. that's going to be a much better high value blue than the ultramarine. I'm going to use that blue with the ochre and the transparent oxide red. See, that's just not quite right. Might use a little bit of the Sennelier red, just to bring it back to a kind of more neutral. What time are we at? I think that's been about half an hour, which is getting towards the limit of how much time I thought I wanted to spend on this. I have to say, it still feels quite unresolved. Now, I need to stop this becoming a big smooshy mess. And I think it's actually a question of value more than it is one of colour. I think what we need here is to bring back that dark value. Yeah. Okay, so now we've done a bit of work on that, I'm going to go back and work a little bit more on the portrait. Really, this is such a quick, it's just some blobs, just blobbing it out, but there's something there. There's something there. I want to finish. Came back, I had to take well, from your point of view I didn't do anything, but from my point of view, a wee bit of time has passed there, I had to go do something. Family life in it. So I just want to now be finished. Which is, I sort of only sort of mean as a joke, like, I need to get done so I can move on to some other things. Like I said before, I never really wanted this to be anything more than just a little exercise, a little study. And these things can just so easily get out of hand. Right, I need to sort out these lips because the lips in the reference are a big part of the character of this person in my mind. So I need to make sure I can get this right. So I think another bad habit I have is overdoing the darker values. Just slightly overworking, slightly overdoing. You know, some of these little marks I'm making here, I think, are dangerously close to that. But I'm going to sort of trust them a wee bit. Try and say, oh, okay, well, maybe it's alright. Maybe it'll be okay by the end. Now, there are some things I do want to have in as very dark. You know, the t-shirt behind the shirt here, I think, is more than just something that tells about the clothes. It's a kind of framing device for this bottom part of the face. So there's a piece here which is framing. There's a piece down here that's framing. And there's a piece actually up here that's framing. Right, so I'm going to do a wee bit on this hair. I'm going to try and find some of these nice shapes of the hair. Do you know what? I've just realised something, and sometimes it takes you a while to realise. But that brush I was using there was just way too small for that job. Way too small for that job. I'm going to switch back to the nice brush. I had been using this for lights and I'm now switching to darks, but you know what? I just don't care. It'll be alright. Just easier with a big brush to see bigger shapes, to find bigger shapes. Oh, see, now that I've made that hair a bit bigger, just changed the shape of that, I think that looks much happier. I kind of stopped talking. It's not because I ran out of things to say or anything, I just... Sometimes speaking language just doesn't cut it. And it has to be painting language. Alright, I think we're getting pretty close to a point where I can say, alright, I'm going to stop. There's still some bits I think, oh my god, what a nightmare that is. But other areas I quite like some of this base layer poking through. I kind of don't want to touch it all that much. I'm never sure what the right consistency of paint I should apply. One of my favourite painters, Alex Kanevsky, I think once said, and I believe this from looking at his work, that he likes his paint to be very soupy, very sort of soupy and loose consistency. And I have to say I'm attracted to that. I am attracted to that. I don't know if I do paint in a loose and soupy consistency. Maybe I should. Right, I need to up the chroma, I think, on some of this side of the head. I need to get the sense that there's light. There's light here. To really want a few moments to really read as these big moments of chroma, colour, no sorry, of highlight. Sometimes it feels like, oh god, I just cannot add any more white. But you know, I'm not actually trying to make it bright, I'm trying to make it desaturated. I'm probably using too small a brush here. In fact, I'm definitely using too small a brush. I'm just going to persevere for a second. So I'm still not quite sure it's actually the right. I think that's too far. I think I'm going to knock that back a bit. I may just kind of abandon that, pretend it never happened. I may call it a day because this is supposed to just be a starter. I'm now need to eat some lunch. I'm not sure there's that much point keeping working at it. You know, the point of this was just to kind of see if I could do a live little exercise like this. So I'm going to watch it back and see if it sounds like total nonsense or not. I just want to catch a few little shapes. And I'm still unhappy with these blips. Dope. All right, so I might leave it there. There's things that I want to do. There's things that I could do. Like I really want to tighten up some of the features. And even, as I'm talking, I'm doing it. I'm saying I'm not going to do it, and I'm doing it as I'm saying I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to try and fix some of these. Nah, not me. Who, me? I'm not going to do that. You won't catch me working any more on this painting. But I think, I can make this more interesting. I know I could. That's what's slightly frustrating about it. And that's the danger of the study, is you kind of lose things. You gain things and you lose things. Like I've lost some of the grouping of the shadows. That's disappointing. That is disappointing. Maybe I can sort of get some of it back here. Maybe I am going to do a little bit more. Okay, just a little bit of blending. You know, the thing your painting teacher told you not to do. Don't blend on the canvas. Oh, look at me. I'm doing it. I'm blending on the canvas. Honestly, I think it's fine. I don't know what the big deal is. I think, you know, if you're blending everything into a smooshy nothingness, then you're doing something wrong, obviously. I think you know that. You know that you're doing something wrong.
So at this point, I got a phone call and ended up chatting on the phone, but I'm not going to put that into the video, so this audio is recorded after. And so now that I've got a bit of distance from the painting, and I'm sitting here looking at it, now it's on the wall drying, I'm so tempted to do more to it. I like these studies because the speed of them means you make all these mistakes, but actually in those mistakes is your own language. Like, to some extent, one of my biggest problems with painting at the moment is not really feeling super secure in a painting language. Like, sometimes it feels like you need to invent your own language, which just feels impossible. So I think the reality is you borrow a bit of this, a bit of that. And, you know, like this painting, it's not exactly like an Uribe head, but it's not that far off, because that's how I learned from watching Our Painted Lives. And so these studies, you hope in them that there's some kind of way of finding something new. So in this last little bit, I'm doing a bit of, and I start to kind of do things to the edges. I don't know if it worked, but that's what I did. Anyway, I'm not going to sit and narrate the last bit. I'm just going to let it play out and maybe put in some music or something. So listen, if you've watched this whole video, then well done. Thank you very much. I'm going to be hopefully doing more of these. Obviously, I'm doing lots of videos. I'm enjoying making them. So I'm going to try do one a week, but I think that's not going to always happen. But one a week or one every 2 weeks is my aim. But sometimes there'll be these, you know, long form full painting of a study. And I'm going to be putting these on the website and selling them for a really small amount of money. Because it's just a wee study on paper. So if you like it and want to support this channel, then go on the website, see if there's something you like. Or message me and talk, and we'll work something out. We'll find something that you like. What I'm not going to say, and I'm never going to say, is like and subscribe. I think that's just implicit, you know. If you like a video, people like it, don't they? I know there's this whole idea you should remind people, but it's just so cringe. It's so cringe. The whole world of
YouTube videos is so cringe. And like, maybe I'm cringe too. Maybe I'm cringe too. But hopefully I'm cringe in a slightly different way. I'd rather be authentic and cringe than trying hard and cringe. Try hard cringe is the worst cringe. So if you ever slip into that, then you have permission to call me up on it. Anyway, if you've made it to all this way through, then that's amazing. Surely nobody's listening now. But that's it. That's it. It's done. It's done. I'm wrapping up. It's time to go. It's time to move on. So thanks so much. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing this. Alright, so see you next time.